Hi, I'm Sonia. I'm from Roma Finance, and today I'm going to talk to you about property investments and HMOs specifically, what I do in the business, but more importantly, how we see a lot of projects coming into our business, which are HMOs, and what else we're seeing also in the market and in the industry. So a little bit about me. Who am I? I've worked in the industry for about 27 years in finance. Have I done property development myself? Well, not really. I have got property investments myself, which I haven't had a lot of success with, but I've a lot of learnings along the way. But there is a lot to learn, and I've picked up a lot of things from a lot of our customers who come to us and speak to us about their property journey and what they're looking for in terms of finance. So that's what I'm going to discuss with you today. So we're going to cover what investors should look for, some top tips for due diligence, and what do we actually do, and what does that mean for you? So firstly, what should investors look for? There has been a lot of regulation, legislation changes. Yields have been tightened, costs have been going up, but actually that still means there's a lot of space for HMOs because of the opportunities that it creates and the yields that it actually provides as well. So there's a lot of landlords that are leaving the space, but actually that leaves room for some savvy property investors who can come in, step in, and actually make something of a property which maybe needs a bit of love and care, or thinking outside the box of what else you can do to it to make some more money for yourselves. Demand is still going up, so there is a lot of demand currently out there in this country. People still need homes. There is a shortage of homes, and we've seen a lot of customers who come to us with projects, and we assess them, we see if they stack up, and we'll try and help and support them as much as we can. Follow the investments. What we find is a lot of customers go and look at what's going on around them, and that's great to hear. Look at local councils, local authorities, what are they doing in your area or in and around your areas. There's cycle lanes being made, there's corporate businesses coming in, young professionals moving into that city because of these corporate businesses coming in, universities, you know, that kind of space for HMOs specifically, and there is definitely a lot of demand. Look out for Article 4 areas where they are, and look for locations outside in Manchester, Liverpool, where there's a number of universities where there is opportunities. Following the money, knowing when to get in and when to get out is really crucial. Obviously, we all know that there's been Article 4 direction that's coming in certain locations. What's that meant? There's been an influx of certain applications, let's say in Derbyshire. We've seen that happen. So a lot of customers came in at the right time, made a really good investment, built some HMOs in that location, for instance, and have stepped away from it because they knew what was coming, what was ahead. So be a step ahead of the game. There's a lot of opportunities to buy properties at distressed sales. There's landlords who need to sell up. Their mortgage rates have gone up. They don't want the headache with regards to renters reform bill. Lots of other things that are happening. Talking about commercial just quickly, there's a lot of businesses that have failed, but actually repurposing commercial space, even using it still for commercial, but thinking outside the box by splitting titles, making the retail space a little bit smaller. You know, all these little golden nuggets is where customers are actually walking away with some profit in their deals. So negotiate wherever you can. If you feel that you can actually get a better deal, try your best. You can try and get better. Think about legal costs. I've had customers who've negotiated with vendors to say, I'll cover your legal fees, which is great because you'll negotiate down the price a little bit, but actually for you, how much does a legal fee cost? Not much. So it's always a good thing to try and think outside the box a little bit and negotiate really well. So HMOs, are they still a good investment strategy? Well, according to us and our stats, yes, they are. We see some really good customers. HMOs, their strategy. They do it really well. They do some retrospective planning. So if they've got a 6-bed HMO is what they're planning, but actually retrospectively they're going to go for 8 or 9. They're thinking outside the box. So once we've done some of the funding or started the project, they'll go ahead and get some retrospective planning and get some more money for what they've actually paid for. Focus on areas with high turnover, with supply constraints and low saturation. So where the demand's high and the supply's low, that's where you need to step in. So there's a lot of purpose-built student accommodation, but actually there's a lot of areas where that's delayed massively. but there's a massive demand. So people are actually on waiting lists. And here's the kicking, is Nationwide have reported that there is an average of 21 tenant applications per property. So that just tells you that the demand is strong and is very high. So HMO strategy is still a thing, and we'd encourage you to do it. If you're doing it already and you want to continue doing it, I think it's the best thing for you to do. You know your stuff, you've got the knowledge, you've got the experience. You're the kind of customer that we'd like to work with and actually do work with. Compliance is critical, it's not going to go away. So always build in this kind of cost element to your projects. Think about what kind of HMO you are creating. Think about the long-term use. What kind of tenants are you going to get into that property? So, you know, with examples of some customers that we've had that are very good and very savvy, thinking outside the box. They might be spending a bit more money, for instance, on the flooring, which I saw one customer who's put resin flooring on the whole ground floor. And actually, it doesn't look too bad either, but actually it's hard wearing, doesn't need to think about it over and over again, doesn't need to replace it for a very, very long time. You can drop anything on it and it's perfectly fine, and it fits health and safety as well because it's softer. So there's loads of different things like that where you need to think about making sure you're there with compliance and also saving you some money in the long run. HMO specialist lenders, there's a lot of us out there now, and that's a really good thing. So you're dealing with people who look at projects like this every single day. They understand what you want, they understand what your project needs, they can compare it to some other stuff that we've already seen in the market or in that location. So it's really important to understand who you're working with, who that lender is. Do they know you? Do they know your projects? Do they know the location? And keep them communication lines open. So if you've got any issues that might occur during the project, think of your lender that you're working with as the biggest partner that you're working with, because lenders have the biggest stake in your projects, normally lending you to 70 to 75% towards the purchase, and sometimes all of the cost of works as well. So actually they've got a big risk in that project. So what you need to see them is as your partner in this project. So if you do that and you keep the communication open, if something happens, you need more time, you need more money, anything like that, pick the phone up and speak to your lender, speak to your broker, anything that you can do there to make your life a bit easier rather than sit there and worry that, oh, I can't really let the lender know that. We want to know, talk to us, that's what we're here for. So why Roma for HMOs? HMOs represents about 20% of our loan book at the moment. Amongst that, we've got ground-up developments. We see a lot of commercial to resi conversions. There's a lot of different projects amongst the HMOs, but what we see a lot of, and we love seeing, is where people are walking into a property and adding value. So if you've got a project and you're going to be adding value to that property, you know, creating more homes in this country, that's what we like and that's what we want to fund. So unlock the value, convert underutilised, I've mentioned this already, disused retail space, unused pubs, care homes. We're seeing all sorts, but thinking outside the box a little bit and actually creating some place for someone to live is really, really important. Seamless funding journey. We do actually have a quick bridge that you can get. So what customers tend to do is they'll come to us and say, right, okay, I've got a really great opportunity here. I don't want to miss out. I need to buy it quickly. My plan is I've done all these HMOs previously and I want to continue doing that, but I need to buy this property. So what they'll do is they'll come to us, we'll arrange a really quick bridge for them. So they've acquired the property. Maybe they might need planning, that's fine. They'll go and get the planning, or actually they could go straight into the project, and then we'll assess it for the development finance, or that can also be agreed at the first conversation. Development finance is done. They've got finished project and a property. We can then flip it onto a term mortgage. So that's basically having one lender that does everything, that helps you with the start of the journey, the development finance, and then the end with the term. And actually, most of the time, at the end of the project, you've got a higher value property, which basically means you can take out more equity from the property and then go on to move on to the next project. And that's how you build your portfolio. I mentioned earlier about speaking to specialist lenders who are in the industry for a while, understand the projects, and that's where you've got the experienced underwriting team, experienced sales team on the front end who can assess what you're looking to do, understand, does it make sense? And sometimes you have to walk away from certain projects. And we're happy to tell you that. If we're saying, look, we can't lend you the money on this because of this, this and this, we'll be transparent from the beginning. But having that experienced person that you can speak to is really important. We want you to make profit. We want you to make a lot of profit on your projects. And if that means ways of how you can save money from a lender's point of view, we can offer you dual representation on your legals, fee contribution towards the end of your project, where if you're moving from one product from Roma Finance to another, we'll cover some legal fees, some valuation costs, so it saves you that money. So some top tips. I'm from Leamington Spa, and I can see a lot of regeneration and things happening in my area. Look at where the investment is going. Sit on the board in your local authority, just for insight of what's happening. That's really, really important if you can do that and you've got the time for it, because you get a lot of valuable information of what's happening in a certain area, and sitting on the board can help. But just look out where this money is being spent and then select the areas carefully of where you're looking to purchase your next property investment. Always build a contingency within your project. Think about 10 to 15%. We talked about costs rising at the start of this talk. The costs are still going to keep rising potentially, so add that contingency in. And you just don't know, your strategy might change. So we have exits where customers are thinking they're going to refinance at the end, they're going to sell, but always have a plan C as well. So that plan C then means making sure you've got enough money in the pot or in another property in the background where if it's needed, you can plug it in. And that's with the third top tip there about the exits. So yeah, keep your exit strategy open. Think about what else you might do. If you're always held on to properties and you've flipped them onto a buy-to-let, you have to keep your options open, because you might think, actually, this particular location or area, whatever's happening in there might mean you might want to sell it. So circumstances change. And I've said it again, and I'm going to say it again, communication is the biggest thing. We always want our customers to talk to us. Speak to your brokers, speak to us, anything like that, any issues that you've got, or even at the first stage when you're actually being presented with a quotation and you want to understand it better, you want to understand the other costs which might not be shown on that quotation, speak to us. We're happy to share and discuss it with you and give you some clarity. So choosing a bridge lender, I think there's a lot of bridging lenders out there, and what I would say is word of mouth is really important. You're here going to be at events like this today and other events. Speak to people, ask them who they're doing business with regards to lending. Word of mouth is really important, so you'll understand their process a lot better. Are they part of some kind of professional body? Are they part of the industry awards? Understand that. You can see that on their website. It's easy to find. Do they understand the need for speed on your projects and to get the money across to you very quickly? Not just at the start, but also in the drawdowns. So you've got builders who are working on your project. They need the money paid on Friday because they're going to go and enjoy their weekend. They're not going to sit and wait. So does that lender provide that service for you? Can they get you the money in with speed? Because if not, that contractor that you've got will potentially walk off-site and do something else. Do they provide the service? Do they pick the phone up? Do they answer your calls? These things are really important. Do you have somebody who you can actually speak to and know quite well? So having that dedicated point of contact. Underwriting, is it black and white? Computer says no. If that's the scenario, then you're probably dealing with the wrong kind of lender who's not agile and being able to adapt to what you're looking to do. A lot of specialist lenders actually are, and they do have bespoke underwriting, and we do as well. So we'll take a commercial view on a lot of the projects that we look at and see, can we help you in any way? How can we change this? Is there a product alternative to what we're actually discussing at that point? Look at the focus on the exit. So if a lender's not really concerned about your exit, you might need to be concerned about working with that lender. You need to make sure that they understand what your exit strategy is so that they know and they want to work with you to get to that exit so they can be redeemed back. Transparent fees and charges, I've said that before. Speak to your lender if you're not seeing a clear picture of what the charges are, what the fees are, what do they mean, why are you charging me this? Ask the question. That's what you can do, and they should have an answer for you. So doing your due diligence on the lender, this really helps because we do due diligence on yourself. So when you come to us with a project, we'll credit score you, we'll look at the property that you're buying, we'll get a valuation report done on it. So we'll do all that. But what you also need to be doing is doing your due diligence on the lender themselves. What's the size of the company? How big are they? How long have they been going for? Have they just created this bridging lender, a year ago? What's their loan book look like? What's the background of the owners? What's the interest of them doing bridging finance, development finance? Are they developers themselves? So there's a few things that you need to think about, because I have seen instances where some people have had other interests within your projects. So you need to understand who the owners are and what their interest is. How many funding lines do they have? We saw this happening in COVID, where there were some lenders where they only had 1 or 2, sometimes 3 funding lines, and when COVID or pandemic or some situation happened, they didn't have any money left in the pot, or the funding line dropped off and said, right, we're not going to lend at the moment because of the situation that's happening. And that's left you with no money, your project unfinished, and potentially you're going to be making a loss. So understand how many funding lines they have. What are they? Are they banks? Are they building societies? Are they peer-to-peer lenders? Where does their money come from? It's really important, because if they've only got one funding line, how certainty are the funds there? If they've got 10, great. Okay, what are they? Where are they from? What's the background of them? Drawdowns. How long does it take for the drawdowns to happen? We've talked about this before. So yeah, make sure you understand their drawdown process. You need the money. Your contractors need to be paid. What happens if the project hasn't gone as you wanted it to? Can you speak to the lender? Are they responsive? Will they give you more time? Will they give you more money? Or will they charge you lots and lots of money to be able to do that? Understand that point. If it was to happen, worst case scenario, what does that lender do? What do they charge? What's the default rate? What's the default fees? How many loans do they write each month? Do they write loads and loads of them and you're just one of so many? Do they care about that? Will they focus on your project? Or are they just focusing on 1 or 2? So you've got to keep an eye on things like that. And look at their default or repossession rates. Understand what that looks like and how many loans that actually they repossess or default on. So that tells you that, are they assessing the project in the first instance in the correct way? Are they lending the customer too much money? Is their leverage too high? Are they sensibly lending? So that's an important point as well. And then obviously, you probably all know, banks and specialist lenders all do due diligence on yourselves, but what we like to look at Roma Finance is, who are we lending the money to? What's your objective? What's your plan? What's your strategy? We want to be invested in you, not just the asset that you're buying. So we'll look at who the borrower is. We want to make sure there's profit in your project, so we'll stack it and make sure, actually, if worst case scenario happens, are you still going to be making money? Are the cost of works that you've listed on your project in line with what it is at the moment, or are there mates rates? What if something was to happen tomorrow and you had to get another contractor in? Are you still going to be able to get these cheap costs? So we look at all that. And are we right for each other? Are you working with the right lender and the borrower? Can we work with you? If something was to go wrong, can we actually get into hold of you? Are you transparent with us? Are you telling us the whole story? For instance, if you are going to be having retrospective planning, tell us at the beginning. It's fine. We're happy to hear about it. We want to know what your plan and strategy is. Just quickly going on to Roma Finance. What we've got is 3 product ranges. So we've only launched this year. So we've got Roma Flow, Roma Grow, Roma Pro. And what happens in each of these products is, Roma Flow is your quick bridging, your quick auction purchases, below market value, somewhere where you're going to spend a little bit of money, at least 25% of the current market value of the property. That's the quick flow product, so that's your quick lending. The Grow range is your development finance. That's when you're adding more value to the property, where you're spending 50% or more of what the current market value is of the property on the works. So that could be your ground up developments, or it could be just a development project. We also actually can offer commercial development as well, so ground up commercial development finance too. The third one is Roma Pro, so that's the more longer term borrowing that we can offer. Again, this has only been relaunched this year. We have offered buy-to-lets before. So we've got the specialist buy-to-let products that sit in the Roma Pro range. And within that also, we have now got a revolving credit facility that some people know as a business property overdraft, hunter's license. There's many different names for it. We call it revolving credit facility. That then allows you to go out and hunt for business and not have to worry about the costs each time for a bridging loan. So what's new? I've just talked about it, revolving credit facility. That's the latest product that we've got. And what that does is if you're a property investor and you've got equity in property, and with the current volatile market that we've got with distressed sales, auctions, you want to have the buying power and to be able to purchase something that might be a little bit quirky, that a lender might not be able to do 70% on towards the purchase. This actually product is great for that because we will then take a charge on your existing portfolio or some of it or all of it, whatever you want us to do, and put a pot of facility available for you. So that equity then is available for you to then dip into for property transactions, which is buying a property or property deposits. And you can go and buy a property, do what you've got to do to it, and then repay us back within 12 months, and then do it again and again and again. So it's a revolving credit facility, and you save money on valuation, lenders' valuation fees, lenders' legal fees, because at the first instance when you're buying it, you can just go in and buy it, and you've got the money within 48 hours. So it gives you that negotiation skill already, because you're standing there with proof of funds in a room, and you could be up against somebody else who hasn't got that. So it's a great product. So if you want to hear more about it, you can go onto our website. You can come and speak to us at the stand today at the HMO Awards, and we'll be happy to discuss any of the product range actually that we have today. I mentioned commercial dev, which might not be right for HMO's awards today, but we have actually also got commercial development finance. And that again is something new to Roma. We're seeing a lot of commercial space, and people have actually been converting them to resi. We saw a lot of that happening last year and at the beginning of this year, but actually what's happening now and what we're seeing is commercial space is still needed and is being used, but it needs to be used, repurposed in a different way. So office space is needed, but how is it needed? It's not your old style offices, open plan, it's actually smaller space, it's breakout spaces, it's a different way of looking at things. Industrial units, you know, there's smaller industrial units that are needed for dance clubs, karate clubs, lots of different uses for it. So we've launched commercial development finance, which we're really excited about. And actually it's a product that's already flying at the moment with some of our customers. So it's great to see that. Dual representation. So that's another new thing that we've launched because we want to help our customers save money. So we want them to be able to have one legal representative, which we would have from Roma. It will save time and money for the customer because there's no back and forth with so many different solicitors. They're all, you know, speaking to one, and they'll be representing yourself and us as a lender. That dual representation is only available for our buy-to-let products and bridging at the moment. So, but it will save you a lot of money. And that's it. If you want to speak to us, come and speak to us on our stand today. If you don't get to speak to us, then go onto our website at Roma Finance. You can see my contact details on there, Sonia Mann, and would love to discuss this further with you. Thank you for listening.